With it being summer and the college year not too far away from beginning, I know that there will be a whole new class of college freshmen who are heading off to college for what is, as we've been told, supposed to be one of the greatest experiences of our lives. Just some of the best times, such a unique experience, such an opportunity for growth and for figuring out who we are. And since it's summer, and that's, August is coming up soon, people are going back to school, I know that there are many young men out there who will be making the decision whether or not to join a fraternity or other types of organizations. And with this in mind, I just would like to share my story and my experience being in a fraternity, because it was pretty brutal, and truthfully, I'm pretty surprised that I'm here today to record this video because of how traumatized the experience left me and how depressed this left me and how suicidal this left me. So, it feels good to be here now, talking about this and sharing, just being open and honest about my experience and my story. So that's perspective I hope to bring today is my experience, and just for young men out there who are joining fraternities and other sort of service organizations, and really just anyone kind of going through these transitory experiences. But as I'll be talking about my experience, which wasn't a fraternity, that's where it'll be focused. And of course, this message is also for friends of young men, parents of young men, siblings, just anyone out there. I just want people to be aware of some of the possibilities and the negatives and the downsides to being in a fraternity. And I've been talking about being in a fraternity, and one of the big parts I am talking about here is the hazing that goes on inside organizations such as these. So whenever I was going to college, I just kind of decided to go to the University of Texas here in Austin, where I live today. And so there's some other guys from my high school who were going, and I didn't really know anything about the fraternity life at the time, but they invited me to go to some rush events with them for fraternities. They said, it's do tons of fun, all these really big parties, like you should check it out, you should come. And so I was like, yeah, that sounds great, it sounds like a lot of fun, awesome. So I went to a bunch of parties like the summer before my senior year, and summer before my freshman year, and did a lot of rushing, as it's called, to try out different fraternities and whatnot, and of course there's just tons of partying, tons of fun. I was gonna say only the good side was seen of fraternities, but I would not say that that's true as well, because these parties are just full of binge drinking and just generally unhealthy behavior, and so I ended up getting a bid from a fraternity, and I ended up pledging that fraternity. And so in August of 2012, yes, I started University of Texas, and basically immediately as well started pledging the fraternity. What this led to was a semester long experience of being hazed, of being kept up all night, of being screamed at, of being yelled at, of being degraded. And the organization I was in, a lot of these nights we would be in this dark room where we could be called at any time and told we had to be at the house ASAP. We had to get there, otherwise it was going to be hell and we had to pay for it. And so I had a semester long of all of these nights where we'd be sitting in this room, and we'd be sitting, I never can remember the name for the phrase, but we called it basically sitting down on the ground. So like my butt would be on the ground, my feet would be up and out, and somebody would be sitting basically right in front of me, their back into my chest. Somebody would be sitting in front of them, somebody would be sitting in front of them, and we'd be really crammed together. And in this seating arrangement, in this dark room, which just smelled like urine and alcohol and cigarette smoke, we would sit there and be yelled at and screamed at and told, to keep our eyes down. We couldn't make eye contact with anyone. And this whole time I had this, this thing where it's like, oh, I signed up for this. Like I can take this. I can take this pain. I can take. I can show that I'm tough. I just gotta endure. Just gotta withstand. This will all be worth it. Like I'm doing something. I'm gonna be really cool, because I just been my whole life. I just wanted to be cool. And so being a part of this group, which I was kind of told was cool, and had this whole cool. I think that was just kind of one of the big intrigues about it, and it's it's very kind of ephemeral and amorphous, just this word cool and this energy, but everyone's just like trying to exude cool, which now I would definitely not describe it as such. But having a semester where I was sitting just cramped, crowded with my pledge brothers, and where I couldn't look up, and so I had to keep my head down, and getting yelled at and getting screamed at, and just taking in all of this stress, that a couple things happened. So my body just like locked into this position, into this, this kind of this guarded, slumped, rounded, protective posture. And in that, so many of those times when we're there up late at night, just getting screamed at about who knows what, while the people screaming at us were just pissed drunk, I basically just checked out. I ended up saying basically to myself, and trying to convince myself that this was not happening, that this wasn't real, that I was not there. I just completely checked out. I was like, okay, I'm gonna check out. And then once this is over, once Pledgeship is over, then I can come back. But for now, I'm just gonna sit here. I'm just gonna take it. I'm just gonna let it happen. And then once it's over, I get to be me again. And it feels like until this day, pretty much, after lots and lots of work, that I'm only now really starting to feel like me again, even though I finished Pledgeship Thanksgiving of 2012. So that's coming up on 9 years ago. So it's over 8.5 years ago. So it's taken me 8.5 years to feel like I have checked back in to myself, to my experience, to admitting all of the pain that I was in, because I went so numb when I checked out, when I was acting like all this stuff wasn't happening. I went so numb that, I was just a shell of myself, and I was just ended up being deeply depressed, and in this position of being yelled at and screamed at and taking, and some other things happen too, but like the majority of it seems to be just being sleep deprived, being told when and where I had to be, what I could do, who I could be friends with, all of these different things that were part of this culture were all incredibly stressful, and just the number of hours that I had to sit there in this position, not looking up, not acting like I was not there, taking in all of this stress. My reaction to stress became, this is not happening. This is not real. I can hide. Because for a whole semester, I was trying to hide. I've always been basically the tallest person in my class. I've always good at sports, always good academically. I was basically, I never really hid in my entire life in many ways because I couldn't, because I was physically tall. Like I could not hide and blend in. And then whenever I started to react to stress this way, by hiding and acting like I wasn't there and trying to not be seen, that was installed on me so heavily during Pledgeship that it became a pattern for how I reacted to stress in life. If things were happening to me, instead of being resilient before and being able to take on challenges and kind of like this rising to the occasion type ability that I had, it came to be where I just let myself get pushed around, where I wasn't like standing up for myself and what I wanted, and if anything was like remotely stressful, I would just freeze and lock up and couldn't communicate. And I was having panic attacks. It was really, really bad. I ended up getting into some therapy. I was on anti-anxiety, antidepressant medications for a while. At one point, I came very, very close to making an attempt on my own life after having been deeply suicidal for at least a year, and having said that I lost the will to live, and said that to myself, but also I'd even said that to at least one friend, and I just I forgot how to be a human. I lost my humanity because I could not, because I just wasn't there. I was so gone and so checked out. And it's taken, again, 8.5 years for me to kind of feel like myself again. It's been so painful. And it seems that, even after this Pledgeship experience, when I was in a ton of mental pain, I could not speak up. I could not say anything to anyone until I was right there, like on the edge, right there on the precipice. And I feel like even then I could like barely eke it out. I was wanting to not show my pain so much. I was wanting to be tough and just wanting to be seen as strong and just hiding my pain, which I had done for years physically, because I had moderate to excruciating knee pain from 7th grade on, and I used to kind of get made fun of for the pain that I was in, and like no one really understood it. At times I could barely walk, but I just wouldn't stop. I just kept playing sports, kept pushing through it. Even talking to my parents now, they didn't understand the level of pain I was in, and in many ways at that time, the pain I was in, no one could. I like gone to physical therapy, but basically what they told me was like, ice it, take an Advil, and you'll grow out of it. Like there's nothing you can do about this pain. And so the message that I got about pain was like, no one really cares. There's nothing really you can do about it. You'll grow out of it. So those were the messages that I got about how to deal with pain. And so whenever I started experiencing all of this mental pain, which there were precursors of all this stuff for sure before the fraternity, so all the precursors were there, but the fraternity really brought out all of these sides of me. The fraternity brought out basically, in many ways, like the worst in me, the parts of me that I am least proud of. Because after I completed Pledgeship, I was like, okay, well I'm in now. I'm part of this fraternity. Like, this is the culture that how I learned how to act and learned how to be, and brought out again these sides of me, which now in many ways I'm very grateful for that they've come out of me, and I can look at them and see them and see what I have to learn from myself and who I've been. But with that reaction to pain that I was taught, whenever I was having this deep mental pain, I was the same thing. Even whenever it started during Pledgeship, I was just thinking like, oh, this will go away. Like, ice it, take an Advil, like, it'll go away. I'll grow out of it. Even after Pledgeship, like, oh, this will just go away. This problem will just go away. I'm just gonna grow out of it. That's what I've been told. And just year after year, that just was not happening. And so there's a couple messages, definitely for getting into fraternity. There's cool parts about them for sure, but if they believe that you need to go through a rite of passage that is really degrading to you, that is really hurtful to you, that is harmful, that's if you need to go through all this hazing, just you don't have to take that. And if you know that it's going on, like, definitely you can walk away. You can go and tell people this is what is happening and that it is not okay. It's just not okay. Like, is this, how do we want to be treating people? How do we want, so as young men, like, how do we want to be initiated into society, initiated into adulthood? It's just not, definitely not the way that I was, I would say. It was very painful, very hurtful. And for parents, for family, for friends, how do you want your children, your nephews, your brothers to be initiated, to grow, to learn how to be an adult at this really crucial time in their lives where they're leaving home and they're entering college and they're kind of being on their own for the first time in their lives and like learning how to be an adult. I just think that there's got to be a better way, and the fraternity, as is not it. And so I would just recommend you don't participate in fraternities that are like that. I'm sure there's some out there that aren't. From what I understand, most of them unfortunately have really toxic cultures. And again, I participate in it. I'm not taking, I'm not acting like I am better than the culture that I was a part of. Like this is a big thing. Like, I realized like I was in this. I didn't act this way. And in some ways I did turn around a little bit and do a little bit of hazing myself. Only a little bit. I felt very bad about it, but I knew it did. Even when I was doing it, I was like, this doesn't even feel good, but I still did it at times. So I say that for people to be aware of that this can happen to people. That the experience you have in a fraternity, being hazed into a fraternity, can be so traumatic that you can come to the brink of suicide. And I'm very surprised, honestly, that I only came to the brink. And also, just especially for men, if you're in pain, it is okay to be in pain. It's okay to be with your experience and what you're feeling. And if it hurts, tell somebody. There are things that you can do, and keeping it bottled in and keeping it up and inside yourself is not going to make the pain go away. And numbing is not going to make the pain go away. It's not a solution to the pain. So this is a video I've really wanted to record for a while, and I hope it was coherent enough. I hope I got my message across, and just how damaging these experiences can be. And I'm sure there are a lot of people being encouraged to go to fraternities. There's a lot of nice things being said. And so I want to make people aware of the underbellies that do exist. So hope this was eye-opening. It probably isn't. It's not very pleasant, right? It's not a very pleasant topic, but it is true. It is real. It occurred to me, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that had this experience. So that's it. That's my message. I just don't want another young man to go through what I went through, because I don't know how I made it.